way back in the day. I got to thinking about what I associate with Maine, things that other people do. Thought of Paul Bunyan, thought of his blue ox, and I was like, that I like it. My Chinese zodiac is an ox, and I just said, yeah, it works. And I sort of saw the logo in my mind, and I just was like, yeah, I'm gonna go with it.
It's strong. Right?
Yeah, strong like an ox.
There you go.
I was wondering if it had anything to do with Paul Bunyan. I mean, there aren't many blue oxes out there. So. Yeah. Well, I think we've started talking about malt quite a bit, so let's just jump right into the second round. In the second round, we want to go a little bit deeper into malt and learn more about it. So in one of our previous episodes, we were told that it's basically like sprouted cereal almost. How does it go from those bags of grain that you have sitting there to sprouted cereal?
One thing that people don't often realize about malt is malt can malt any grain. Malt is to beer sort of what flour is to bread. I like to use that analogy because it's a processing step, just like milling is a processing where you take raw any grain and you can make it into an ingredient that bakers can use. So we can malt any grain. Barley is by far the most commonly malted grain. Its physiology just lend themselves very well to this sprouting process and the process the brewers need. But you can malt corn or wheat or rye or einkorn or spelt or triticale, any of these other grains out there.
I knew most of those.
I know. The last one, not so much.
Yeah. It's like, yep, no. Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah, there's some really fun grains out there, and one of the things I get excited about is the potential of malting those in the future and seeing how. So what we do is we take that raw grain and we get it to grow, and we do that by steeping it in water.
So just like a tea, you just put it in the water and just kind of let it percolate.
Do its thing.
Yeah, we let the grain take up water, try to also give it oxygen. We'll soak it in water, and then we'll drain the water, and we'll soak in water again. That also helps clean the grain. It gets sort of any grain dust or dirt that's in there, and it keeps the grain nice and healthy and doesn't drown it. Basically, we don't want to drown the grain. We want it to grow. So we want to keep it nice and healthy and happy. We go through that steeping process, and then we allow the grain to do its thing, to sort of grow. And in that process, what happens is it creates enzymes which break down the starches in the grain and sort of frees up all of that.
And so where it's growing, is it in the steeping kettle? Is it still doing all its thing in there?
That's good. So in traditional floor malting that we're doing, you actually would spread it out on a floor, and you
not the cement floor that we have now.
We're putting in a new cement floor, but yeah, you would put it right on the floor. If you go to a Scottish distillery, they often do floor maltings. They'll have probably a flagstone. They'll have cement floor or a flagstone floor, whatever is in their malting. In the past, it was done in caves, on dirt floors, on wood floors. Now, a lot of the commercial industrial malt houses will do it either in cement or have giant, stainless steel silos, basically, that are all automated and will automatically turn over the grain. Because one thing is that during this process, you still have to be giving it oxygen so it doesn't start to ferment on the floor.
So you move it around on the floor.
We do. So we move it around on the floor. We prevent it from, it's growing rootlets at this point, and so it's actually a grain with roots that start coming out.
So kind of like a sprout, like a bean sprout almost.
Yeah, the first root that comes out is called the chit.
Okay.
So
Keep throwing terms at us.
Yeah,
I like this.
It's called the chit. So when
and
the
that's
barley,
with a C.
yes, CHIT.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have the chitting barley, you basically know that the grain has started to germinate, it started to grow, it started to modify. You allow that grain to continue to grow, and to keep those rootlets from growing together and matting, or what we call felting, we basically plow it using rakes or hand plows.
And how long does it stay on that floor for?
Depends on the grain, depends on the season. We're really looking for modification, so a typical time might be 4 days plus or minus. It could actually be up to 10 days depending on the grain. You're really looking for, as a maltster, you see me like rubbing my fingers together. It's a very tactile. It's
kind of like money. He's like, more malt, more money.
Yeah, more malt, more money. So yeah, I'm rubbing my fingers together because as a maltster,
not monster.
It's a maltster. As a maltster. Again, another technical term for the malter on the, it's malters and maltster, the person doing the malting, or in charge of it. What we're looking for is a level of modification. And while we have lots of clues, like the length of the rootlets, the length of the acrospire, which is that shoot, that first shoot that's growing out of the grain.
And how long about do you want those to be?
Are
you giving away trade secrets or
no?
Okay.
No. So typically you're looking for that to be about the length of the kernel or barley corn.
So not really that long.
No, because we're not growing grass here.
Right.
We're trying to make malt.
I was thinking like 3 inches. I was like, I have no idea what's going on.
No. I mean, no. We don't want to grow grass because at that point brewers can't make beer out of grass. So we actually try to stop that and sort of inhibit that growth and get as much modification as we can while keeping the acrospire, that first shoot, really short.
After the 4 to 10 days, we move it.
We do. So once we've determined it ready through feel and smell and taste and touch, we'll move it into a malting kiln. And that is where we dry down the grain, preserving the chemistry for the brewers and distillers, so keeping those enzymes and those starches available.
If you wanted it to be roasted, would that be the
time
to do that?
Yeah, you're exactly right. While there are definitely things we do in steeping and germination to help encourage different malt styles, it really is the kiln that is where the malt style becomes real. So base malts are kilned at lower temperatures and cured at lower temperatures. Usually it's about a 24-hour drying process, plus or minus. The first half to 2/3 of that is kept at very low temperatures so that we don't harm our enzymes. And as the moisture goes down, those enzymes become a little more stable. We're able to increase the temperature up to curing temperatures, get it down to less than 5% moisture, so something really nice and dry that will last a long time, be really shelf stable for breweries. And depending on how higher we go with our temperatures, how quickly, how much moisture is in our malt when we reach those temperatures, all affect what style of malt we get out.
Now, on the floor, it's a pretty thin layer when we're on the floor piece, right?
Yeah, it is. So when we're doing a floor malting, the piece can be, anywhere from 6 to 12 inches. I mean, historically, that was how you sort of controlled the temperature during the germination. And so in really warm temperatures, you might go as thin as 3 inches. In the winter, you might go 12 inches or deeper.
So what does it look like inside the kiln then? Is it just the same thin layer? Is it just as big as the floor?
It's a little deeper. It can be as thin. It depends on the kiln design. I mean, one of the interesting and exciting things for us is that where we're essentially reinventing malting on a small scale and local level, we're also having to size down and reinvent a lot of the tools for the process, sort of where breweries were in the 1980s. They were out getting dairy tanks and and making up how now you can go buy a complete brew system, but there's no complete malting system out there for a small malting house malt house to start up with. So we're going out and we're getting the dairy tanks and our steep tanks, the big giant steel tanks behind us are, we had custom made for our purposes. We get to choose our own adventure and learn along the way. What's really exciting is there's a really fun community of maltsters and malt houses that are growing right now in America.
So in the floor, when you're in that little room that is just the floor,
Sure.
you get in there and you move it. I don't think you're going to get in the kiln. So what happens in there?
So
I think we found that he can fit.
In that small, in the 350. So our malting kiln is going to be about 10 feet wide and 21 feet long.
Wow.
But won't it be hot? Don't you not want to get in it?
No. Well, you wouldn't want to get in it. It we won't get over temperatures much more than 200 degrees Fahrenheit in our kiln.
So you're saying we can hang out here in the winter?
Yeah, it'll be nice and toasty in the winter. We'll have radiant floor heating. But actually the barley, you'd be surprised, but that barley when it's growing and it's respirating, it produces a lot of heat. If we weren't plowing through that and raking over the malt and turning it over, which we do to add oxygen and prevent felting, but we also do it to lower the temperature. Temperatures caused by CO2 buildup, and it can get well over 100 degrees, even within a few inches, if you're not turning it on a regular basis. So, in terms of quality control, that's something that we've had to put a lot of thought into.
So back to my question. Do they just sit there or do they move?
Thank you for keeping me on topic, because you know me, I love talking about this, and you just press a button, I could go for miles on the same topic.
I completely understand where you're coming from. I think that's kind of how I feel about beer.
In the kiln, you can do bed depths, or at least we'll do bed depths, the grain depth, just in the kiln.
So it doesn't have to move though?
We don't have to move it.
All right. Okay.
But we are forcing air up through the grain.
Right.
So malt kilns, most all of them will have a perforated floor that allows air to go up through the grain.
Marilyn Monroe skirt style.
You would be Marilyn Monroeing up a storm in that kiln when we got it going.
Prancing through with a rake.
She's dancing, prancing through the rake.
I mean, we can turn on that one over there and get a picture.
I'm all set. I'm good. I forgot my long, flowy white skirt today.
There we go. We'll let the barley and the grain feel like Marilyn Monroe.
Yep. So the grain does not have to move, and you can go thicker depths. Of course, the thicker the malt, the more power you need to blow air up through it. The bigger fan you need.
Got it.
So is it done after that? Are you ready to go and give it to a brewer?
No, actually, it's a really good thing. We're really close, but we're not quite there, because those rootlets that we were talking about earlier are still on the grain. And
so those aren't part. I don't know. I don't use all grain in my home brewing because I don't know how to do that.
Sure. No, that's okay. I mean, malt extract just basically means someone's done the mashing for you. It's a really accessible way to get into brewing. It's how I started brewing. So
I think that actually when we do our home brew, I think our home brewer actually does all grain brewing. So I'll get to see it, and we'll get to see it then.
Nice.
Yeah.
But until then, what's the next step of your process?
Yeah, we'll finish the grain, and so we take the malt, still in culm. Culm is the name of that rootlet that is still attached to the kernel, and we remove it. So we move
by hand.
Yeah. Well, that's what we've sort of been doing recently.
Oh,
it's
my
very
goodness.
laborious. I would not suggest it.
I was joking.
No, well, we've, the
You're not
labor of
joking.
love. I'm not joking. We've done it, and it's man,
Labor of love.
it is a labor of love.
Love a bond.
Love a bond.
Bring it
Yeah,
back.
I would
It's happening.
exactly. I would say it is a labor
That's
of
the
love a
next
bond.
name of your beer. The
Yes.
labor